Hey everybody, it's Boardman21, and today I'm going to give you the ultimate crafting guide. This guide is going to cover everything from how to target uniques, when you should target the uniques, picking a build, when you should be picking what you're going for, knowing what you're going for, and how to target search for those items, how to have the best odds of enchanting a weapon higher, when to use stability glyphs versus guardian glyphs, when to make the change, when it's the most important versus when you shouldn't waste your guardians on it, early game affixes that are more important than others, and late game affixes that you should be going for after you've hit certain levels. And we're going to go over the importances of the Shatter, Cleansing, Removal, and Refinement stones, when you should use them, what their uses are for, when would be like the best time to use refinement on an item, and when you're just risking a chance to break something that you shouldn't do. Now obviously if you have unlimited resources, none of this really matters because you can break as much as you want, which is a lot of what I do, but everything in this video is going to help you get the items that you need quicker, faster, and hopefully at a higher rate of success. Although this is an RNG game, so don't expect everything on here to work on the first try. Alright, with that, let's go ahead and jump right into targeting uniques. Alright, when it comes to farming / gambling targeting uniques, there's a few things that you can do. Now, unfortunately, as of the last patch, helms and chest pieces are a lot harder to get uniques since those slots have become available for class specifics, and the original bases that were universal between the classes are no longer in stores and are no longer in the gambling system. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is, if you haven't already heard of, you're going to want to go to lastepochtools.com. This is a great website. This thing gets updated with every patch whenever there's new items. It's got all the affixes. It has all of your weapons, basically every equipment slot. It's got all of your idols. It's got basically everything that you could ever want, and you can see what's out there that you haven't been able to find in the game. Now, when you're going to target something, first you want to find what it is you want, and I'm just going to do a case and point example. For us, we're going to do a huge example of the Primalist. If you're playing and going for Beastmaster as a Primalist, one of the first uniques that you're going to want is called the Claw. So if you go to this website and you simply type in the Claw, of course if this is your first time and you don't know what uniques you are going for, I recommend that you search through them and see what you can use that would benefit whatever class you plan on playing or are playing, and see which ones you like. Now, just using the Control F for finding on the page, we instantly get to the Claw, and as you can see, if I look down to it, it says it requires level 4. This means as soon as we get to level 4, we can gamble unique brass amulets. They won't be unique, but we can gamble brass amulets and we'll have a chance to get the Claw. And this is what we call target farming. Since you can get brass amulets in the Gambler, we can go there, and since we're going to do it with a low level character, preferably as soon as you hit level 4, so that when you buy the brass amulets, there's no option for other uniques that are of a higher level. This will allow us the greatest chance of getting the Claw right off the bat. So we'll go to our character. We'll go to the Gambler, and we're going to gamble as many brass amulets as we can. And there you go, boom, we got the Claw. Now you have it. Now you can summon up to the maximum amount of wolves that you want, which is perfect for your Primalist Beastmaster start, and you got it early. Now remember, you're probably not going to have that much gold in a solo self-found or in hardcore mode, but on softcore, these are some of the best techniques for getting the items that you need early. This will work for any unique that it is you want. Remember, go to Last Epoch Tools, see which one it is you want. This excludes the chest and the helm. Remember, those two slots, you now have to find them in the game from random drops, which takes a lot longer to farm. Alright, the next topic that we're going to talk about is picking a build. And if you don't know what build you're going for, just what affixes that you should go for. Now, if you pick a dodge build or a health build, it's pretty obvious that's what you'd go for. Or if you're doing a minion build, minion damage and minion stats is what you're going to go for. Those seem pretty straightforward. But universally, what are the best things to go for is what I'm going to answer. And if you've watched my other video for the most OP set that you can make to level alts, all we do is stack a lot of dodge and a lot of health. And as you can tell on this character here, as you'll see in that video, we're only level 9, we have over 700 health, and we have 77% dodge, and this character can run through the game without dying the whole way. Now, let's say that you're doing a solo self-found, or you're just a new player in general, maybe playing softcore for the first time, and you're going to ask the same questions. What should I go for? I can't get set dodge. I can't get set health. Those are rare. Those don't drop till you're level 50. So what would I go for? I still recommend that you go for dodge and health, and you put it on everything that you can, which will mostly be suffixes, but you can still get enough to do well. So when you're gambling for things or when you're on the ground, the two affixes you're going to want to look for is health, like on this, which uses the name life. If you see an affix on the ground and it says life, you're going to want to pick that up. Same thing goes for dodge. It will be called evasion. If you see an affix on the ground called evasion, you want to pick it up. Those will be the two most important things. After that is resistances and other such things, but you're not going to be able to add those in the suffixes because you're mostly just going to be going for dodge and health. Those will help get you through the entire story, and that's all I would go for early game. Now, when I would make the transition from early game to an end game build is after, one, I've collected some of the gear for it, or two, when I finish that campaign. Once you've finished the campaign and you've done, all 7 chapters, or if you've wanted to do the 8th chapter, which only gives you 1 bonus passive, so I'd recommend getting higher level and better gear before doing it. But if you do all the chapters and you're now in an end game spot, I recommend that's when you start picking what it is you want to do. By this point, you've probably found what skill you like, maybe some of the other skills you don't like and you'll have to respec. Maybe you go check out a guide on YouTube and you want to start switching over to one of those. What I recommend doing is using the same thing that you have been, that has been working. Because if you make the switch all at once, you're going to find yourself unable to kill anything, you're not going to have the right gear, and it's going to be a very hard switch. However, let's say that you have 2 of the skills that you do need, and 3 of them you don't. I would recommend changing one of the 3 skills that don't work with that build that you want to switch over at a time. Switch one over, level it up quite a bit, and then switch the other 2. But continue to use what was working for you as you build towards it. Don't just go hard switch all at once. It's going to be very hard without the items already ready to go and the skills all at level 1. You're going to hate your life trying to level those back up, especially if you're under level 60, as it can be quite slow. If you got a level 100 character, respecking, as you probably know if you've spent that much time in the game, is incredibly easy. Now again, just to reiterate on how to pick a build, you want to pick a build on what feels good or on what you've watched and want to play towards. And if you haven't done either of those, I recommend the first 2 things you always go for is health and dodge, which will be called life and evasion affixes. Just look for the names life and evasion and you'll get health and you'll get dodge. Those are the 2 most OP stats early game. Alright, so we've gone over how to target a unique, how to pick a build, and how to, aim for that build and what affixes you should look for early game. But now the question is, how do I enchant? How do I have a good success rate of enchanting? And one of the things you'll hear about most people say is this game breaks a lot of items at 90% plus enchant rate. And yes, it does, but we've kind of come up with a technique, although a lot of you will say it falls under the fallacies gamble, which basically just means that you think you have better odds than you do, but you really don't. It's still going to have the same chance of breaking, you just, feel better about it, which is probably exactly how this build works. Actually, that's just how this build works, but you are going to feel better about it, and it seems to consistently work better than most other strategies that I've tried. And the strategy is simple. You're simply going to break something before you enchant on the weapon it is, or the item that it is that you want to enchant. And then you only enchant one time, and if you succeed, you go break something else, and you keep doing that until you get as far as you can. This is how I get a lot of my T15 plus items. It works pretty well. And here you'll see in my inventory, I just gambled a bunch of solar embraces, and this is what we came up with. And basically, I'm just going to say I'm looking for an item that will replace my gloves here instead of dodge. Basically, I just want more protections, let's say. So I look through all of these, and let's say I find one that I like. Here we go. I like Vitality, I like Void Protection, and I like Critical Strike Avoidance. Maybe we'll go for Critical Strike Avoidance instead of Dodge. So when we do take a hit, it just won't be a Critical Strike. And if I look at this, we got a T1, T4, T5. So, you know, we got a T10 here, which isn't a horrible starting base. I like to start with tier 13s, but we're not going to be picky in this example. We're going to start with a tier 10, and we're going to see how far we can push it. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pop it in, and I just want to see what our enchant rate is with nothing. If let's say I wanted to go Vitality, I have an 85% chance of success, which tells me I'm going to have a 90% chance if we put another T1 on, and a 90% chance and above, I would use, you know, a stability glyph instead of a guardian. So for this, I know I'm going to need set dodge. So that's going to be the choice that we make. We're going to put a set dodge on here. We're going to use a stability. Boom, we pop it in. And so far, we got lucky. Now we know that our next enchant's using a guardian, because at this point I'm under 90% chance of success no matter where I go. A guardian is going to give me 100% chance of success, and I think that would be the best opportunity. For this build here, T5 critical avoidance is going to be huge. And I'm obviously also going to want at least T4, T5 set glancing blow. Vitality, I'm not too worried about. Anything over 1 is just a bonus. So if I go with the critical strike avoidance, I have a 93% chance of success, which puts me below the threshold of 100, which means I want to break another item. So I'm going to put these back for now, and I'm going to grab any item I want. It could be white. I don't want to use my guardians for this. We clear those out, and we're just going to grab a random thing. We have a crap ton of intelligence, so we're just going to sit here and just enchant it till it breaks. Boom, item's fractured. I just throw it on the ground. I'm going to put my item back in that I want. I'm going to go to my critical strike avoidance, put my guardian back in, and enchant. And look at that, we now have a tier 12 already. Now, if I go to my set glancing blow, you'll see we're back up to a 100% chance of success, just due to the fact that it's tier 1 and not a tier 4. So I can go ahead and do it free of charge. And now we're back down to a 93%. I'm going to want to break something else. I throw in these lovely pair of vitality and protections, and I'll throw some vitality on there. Clear out your glyphs, don't waste them. We forge it. Let's go with the elemental protections. And fractured, and that was a damaging fracture. Whew, we escaped a good one. It's a good thing we didn't try that on the one that we wanted. We go back to this, we put in our set glancing below, we throw in our glyph, we enchant, boom, we got a tier 3 now. We're getting there. I'm going to go back, I'm going to break another item. Here we got a double T5. This was actually a good drop. However, we're going to break it. We don't need it. There's nothing we're using it for. We're going to throw some necrotic protection on there. And item fractured. Minor fracture, not huge. Made it to T14 on there though. It was good. I always get kind of cautious when I get 4 or 5 successes in a row. Sometimes I want to break 2 items after that before I attempt again. But we're going to go ahead and go for set glancing blow. We're going to see if we can get tier 4. Look at that. We have tier 4. I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to grab the next item to break. Here we have it's not a horrible item. You know, it's a T10 for starters, but we're just going to break it. Let's go for strength. And item fractured on the very first attempt. Wow, sure glad we didn't try to enchant our other one. Now we go back to this. We go to that T5 set glancing blow. And the odds of us getting it? Boom. We now have a T16 item just like that. We're going to see how far we can make it with Vitality. Now, because Vitality is not super important, I'm not going to push this to a point where it could break and actually be a damaging fracture. So if we get below a 75% chance with a Guardian, I'm done enchanting it at this point. But we're going to go ahead and break something else. On this case, we're going to do some Vitality. Boom, fractured pretty quickly. We're going to throw this back in, do our Vitality. At this rate, we're only going to get 1 enchant before we fall to that threshold of 75%. So we only get one chance at this. And look at that, we fractured it. Like I said, it's not always going to work, but we got the item that we wanted on our very first attempt doing this. We got our set glancing blow, our void, and our critical strike. We got a very defensive thing that we wanted. And I could easily trade that out if I didn't want dodge, and I wanted critical strike and avoidance instead. And, you know, an added bonus would have been getting that vitality a little bit higher. It didn't happen on this one, But like I said, this strategy works a lot better than most. If we would have just went straight for it, you would have seen we fractured several items in the process there. I'm not saying it would have happened, no one ever knows, it's RNG, but I feel like this is the best way to really increase your success rate of getting items as high as you want. Alright, so now that you know my technique to crafting and how I get some of my higher level items, and remember, it doesn't always work. I break a lot of stuff and get mad about it. But it seems to work more than just going straight for it when I find a good item. We're going to get into when is it the best time to use stability or is it the best time to use guardian? And I kind of covered this in that enchanting that we just did. But in short, my golden rule is 90 and above, use stability, unless it's an item that's already above T15. If you're above T15, like you got a drop of a T15 and there's a 90% chance, I don't use a stability. I straight will go guardian for all my 5 last attempts on that item to get it. There is no point in risking an early fracture trying to go from T15 to T16 just because it said it was 90% chance and you wanted to throw in 1 stability. Go guardian. Make that thing a guaranteed at least T17 before you have a chance of fracturing. So just to throw in some examples though, out of all these ones that we did find, let's see if we have one here that's pretty high. I think this one's going to be a pretty high tier. Yeah, we got a tier 11 here. So right off the bat, this tier 11, our chance of success is already at a 73. So I would obviously already start going for guardians in this, unless I was going for my 4th slot, in which case we're going to have a much higher chance. Let's just throw on vitality. We have an 88% chance for success. I would still use, for me, a guardian in that situation. Now, me personally, actually, I wouldn't even enchant on this. It's only a T11. I tend to not craft on anything under tier 13. And at tier 13, at this success rate, I would just start using guardians and make sure I got at least the T15, T16 out of it. But in the case of this one, again, my golden rule is if you're under 90%, you're going to want to use a guardian and guarantee yourself some enchants on that. There is no point in, say, using a stability, going for the vitality, and breaking it. Although here, we got lucky, it worked. And you can sometimes get really lucky with it. That's how RNG works. And we're already fractured, but again, just remember 90%. I know you're going to be like, well, Guardian gives 25%. Why not wait till you're down under 80 or down to 75% chance? Well, I think we were at 73% chance when we just broke that one, which we could have used the Guardian on that last one. But it's just a stability only saves you 1 or 2 instability per craft. It's not going to be a game changer between getting a T19 to a T20. It's going to be the game changer if you're starting with a white item and being able to get it up to like a tier 10. There's almost no point in stabilities under 90% chance of success because there's also what people feel a bug with them, and if you use one at that 90% and succeed and then you go to use a guardian under 100% chance, it breaks it. A lot of people have ran into that and it's really weird how that works. A lot of people think the stability ones are bugged, but again, for the 3rd time, golden rule, if you are under a 90% chance of success, use a guardian, not a stability. Alright, so we've covered just about everything from targeting uniques, what to pick for a build early and late game, breaking an item before enchanting to give yourself the best chance of success, you know, stability versus guardian. We're going to get into the last topic, and the last topic is our other crafting items. And we have your rune of shattering, your rune of refinement, your rune of removal, and your rune of cleansing. And a lot of people have said that some of these are useless, and I'm going to show you examples of when you would use it, even if it has a small chance of doing what you want, and when it's good. Now, everyone knows that runes of shattering, these are golden. I mean, these are great, especially early game. You can break down the affixes that you need, that you don't have, and it's a great item to have. I don't even need to explain how a rune of shattering works. You break an item down, you have a chance to get some or all of the affixes on it as your own shards to put on other items. That's a great one. You know, if you find these, if you see these on the ground, make sure you pick them up. On the opposite end, you have a rune of cleansing, which doesn't shatter the item, it just cleans it of all the affixes and doesn't give them to you. So now you have a common item. And the only real good thing that I would say about this to use it for is if you're making items like the OP set for alts, like I did for my tier 1 and tier 2 sets, I use runes of cleansing. I would get rid of everything on an item and then I would enchant what it is I want it, because I didn't plan on going above a tier 8 or a tier 10, and you can get that on a 100%, stability item right off the bat. Now for the other two, these are the two that are a little bit harder to choose when to use. So let's start with the Rune of Refinement. The Rune of Refinement is going to re-rule the rules on an item to a point that could either make them better or worse, but the whole point of it is to make them better. So if I were to take an item that I wanted, and let's say that I was going for more health, which I don't know if this one's low. This one's about right in the middle, 41 out of 45. That's also pretty high on the minion health. This one's on the higher end, so we'll probably get lower. But if I were to take this and I were to throw in a Rune of Refinement, let's say that on my build, I really wanted all that I cared about was health. I just wanted to make sure that I had the highest possible roll of health. Everything else didn't matter. I didn't care if my minions didn't have a lot of health or a lot of dodge. So the first thing I would do, actually, is get my dodge up to a tier 5. And once I have that at tier 5, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, wow, a 52 out of up to 75? That's horrible. Now, before I even put other affixes on, which I wouldn't really do this because obviously putting just another health on there would be much more viable. But let's say that you didn't have any option to put more health on and health was the #1 priority. I would then use a Rune of Refinement to try and get a higher roll before continuing my investment of affixes on this piece. So if I take this, and without a Guardian, what are we at? An 87% chance. I would just keep using Guardians. You're only going to lose 1 instability every time that you do this. I'm going to try and get the highest roll possible, and if depending on how important health is, for me, I would want at least 70 health. 69 I probably wouldn't reroll, but if it's 68 or lower, I'm going to refine it until I can get to that 70 plus. That's what I really want. So I'm going to refine it, and we got another 52. What are the odds of that? The exact same. And boom. Second attempt, we got 70 health. It only took 2 instabilities. Now we can go to putting the other 2 affixes on, just like that. That's what you would use a Rune of Refinement for. Some people say, how long do I wait before I use it? I would wait until you have the affixes that you want as high as you think you're going to get them. When you get on the verge of breaking an item, if it's about to break, I would just use a Rune of Refinement to try and get a higher tier out of that. You have to think, would it be worth it to get a higher tier out of what I have, or take the chance on fracturing it and not even getting to a tier 4 from a tier 3. And for us here, since health is what we're going for and we couldn't put any other health on it, yes, I know you could put straight health, but let's say you couldn't, that in this particular case, it would be worth it to use a refinement before continuing enchanting because you can get more health out of it. In this case, we got 18 health, and that's going to, a 5% increase, so that 18 is actually, 20 health? Or not 20, is actually 19 health instead of 18, plus whatever, percentage of health on other things. If I had more increased health, it adds up. But on this item, we got 18 extra health out of it. And with that, let's get to the last one here. We have the Rune of Removal. So taking a different piece here, let's say that we had something that had 2 affixes that we wanted and a third that we didn't. Let's just say we're trying to get to 100% glancing blow as soon as we can. We want to get to 100% glancing blow using prefix and suffix on as little items as possible. So we're going to do set glancing blow and chance to receive a glancing blow in the suffix slot. I would never do this, but in this case, we really want to get rid of the damage over time. This would be a perfect example of a piece that I would use a Rune of removal on. In real applications, I wouldn't, because we're looking at a T5 piece. I would just keep gambling until I got something better. But in this one, we're going to go ahead and use it. Use your Rune of Removal, and we're hoping for the damage over time. In this case, we didn't get it. There was a 33% chance it didn't happen, and that's unfortunate. But that's when you would use it. If you have at least 2 affixes on something and there's only 1 you need to remove, that's when I would use it. If you have 4 affixes on an item and only 1 you need and 3 you don't, I wouldn't use it for that. I would just keep gambling for an item. You kind of have to, call the line where you see it. But for me, I think that if you have 2 out of 3 that you want, or 3 out of 4, it's worth it to use one to try and remove that 1 that you don't want, and then enchant from there. If you're trying to remove 2 or more affixes from an item that has 3 or 4 affixes, there's no point, because the instability on it's already going to be high enough. You're not going to enchant very high on it. So I would only use a Rune of Removal if there's 1 affix that you're trying to get rid of on an item that has 3 or 4 affixes. And with that, that wraps up my entire crafting guide. I'm hoping that some of this has helped you. I hope that you have better RNG luck finding things, especially now that you know how to target them. I hope that you have a better chance of successfully enchanting items to a higher tier now that you have a strategy behind doing it. And I hope that you save more of your guardians, not using them when you should be using stabilities or vice versa. With that, if you like what has been here and you're looking for more LE content, feel free to like the video, feel free to subscribe. LE content is all we're going to be doing every day. Have a good day.